Hello and welcome to the Supersonic Countdown, where we count down to the big new Sonic game. This is not a permanent series. This is just a one-off thing, but it's still a series. But yeah, so you're probably wondering, well, what's the subject for this, huh? Well, first things first, I did briefly do this at the start of the stream because I was thinking about doing this right away. I am going to be playing both of the Sonic Adventure games, not through them, just a little bit of them while talking about those games. First things first, let's get to the subject at hand, the adventure games. Now you're probably wondering, well wait a minute, you're only playing those two games, what about Heroes? Well, here's your answer. Oh, yeah, that's fake. Um, so you're probably wondering, um, yeah, so the game itself is not necessarily a sequel in terms of like plot. While it does have Shadow the Hedgehog coming back, that's more because of popularity. Um, yeah. So, in case you're wondering, Sonic Heroes is not Sonic Adventure 3. It is technically a sequel in terms of its release, but it's not a sequel in terms of plot. But yeah, so that's why I'm not including the Heroes game, is because of the fact that I want to focus on the games that have continuity in them. So, for example, the Genesis games, and I'm talking about mainline games, so spin off games don't count because they don't have, like, any overarching plot that relates directly to the mainline games. So I'm only focusing on, for the past few streams, it's been Sonic 1, CD, 2, and 3 and Knuckles. Those are all mainline 2D games. I'm also not going to count Mania as a, mainline game because, for one, that's more made as a celebratory game. And, well, not only that, but I would also like to say something else. Oh, right. So, the game itself is set in an alternate reality, which was retconned numerous times. You're probably wondering, how was it retconned? Well, let me tell you. Classic Sonic's world technically should not exist. It's because of the writers that helmed most of the games recently up until this new game coming out that classic Sonic and modern Sonic were considered two different Sonics. Except for one certain game, Generations. In Generations, it was stated that classic Sonic is actually Sonic's younger self. And you gotta remember, for the longest time, Sonic has always been 15 years old. Although, I would like to state that Sonic's old design, prior to the big revamp in design, which we'll get to shortly, made him look a whole lot younger than a 15-year-old anthropomorphic hedgehog ideally would. So, technically, he's not classic Sonic, he's younger Sonic. The only reason why they're calling him classic Sonic is just for the sake of the games that he's from. In Sonic Mania, for instance, he's not referred to as classic Sonic, he's just called Sonic. In Generations, it makes sense because it's a game celebrating the series' 20th anniversary. So as such, it would make sense to differentiate between the two. But I say again, Generations technically sort of implied that, classic Sonic is a younger Sonic. But here's the thing I don't like. The whole part about an alternate dimension set in the past. I don't like this. You know why? Because this and this are one and the same. They are literally the same character. The only difference is how they look. Because, because it's, his younger days. Because of this, obviously he would look way different. He has lighter fur because it's not fully colored in yet. Because, the thing about younger people, traditionally kids, is the features that they would have on their bodies aren't fully developed like an adult or like a teenager would be. Because when you get to be a teenager, that's basically your body starting to mature in a way that would be more adult and matured. I'm not trying to make a bad joke about that or anything like that. What I am saying, however, is that this Sonic would end up being this Sonic in due time because of him aging up. But here's something I don't get. Because of this weird retcon they did in the other games, technically, this should not exist. Classic Sonic's world should not be an alternate dimension. Instead, what it should be is just Sonic's world. It shouldn't be, yeah. So, in layman's terms, what I'm trying to say is, this is that same Sonic. But when you really think about it in terms of the overall plot of the Sonic games, think of it as one large continuity. So you have Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic CD, which, Sonic CD takes place between Sonic 1 and Sonic 2. Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Sonic R doesn't count because that is a spin-off. It was also Sonic's third racing game, because there were 2 Sonic Drift games for the Game Gear. Sonic Adventure, which is the subject at hand, and Adventure 2 as well. But this is what I mean. The whole classic Sonic thing doesn't make sense. Because in Sonic Generations, it's already been stated that classic Sonic is literally this Sonic. So there's no reason to call him classic Sonic. They could just call him Kid Sonic or something like that, because he literally looks like a little kid. It makes sense. And, because this is the same Sonic that has been in the series since the very first game, obviously that other Sonic would actually just be him but younger. So the whole classic Sonic thing is just a major retcon to the continuity of Sonic, And again, like I said, it was done because of you know, um, you know, trying to get it. This. Yeah. So, because of the writers of this game, they ended up making Sonic into this cheesy goofball instead of, yeah. But, um, ow. Don't you just love it whenever your eyelashes literally fall into your eyes for no reason? Yeah, I don't. Um, anyway, so. Uh, anyway, so, uh, okay, what I'm trying to say is, I completely forgot. Oh, right. Um, basically what I'm trying to say is all the mainline Sonic games, so like from Sonic 1 back in 91 to now, that is quite literally every single game that Sonic has been in. This is the same Sonic as, you know, um, this Sonic. Because, it's literally the same. The only differences between his older self and his younger self is his younger self has black eyes, or, the black pupils, and his fur is a little bit lighter, and his shoes look a little bit different. And that's to imply that he's his younger self. But, yeah. Anyway, so I think that should settle the debate of are classic and modern Sonic the same or what? Because in the ideal scenario where Sonic never had those writers in the first place, Pontac and Graf, because again, I've talked about this numerous times in the other streams, they know nothing about Sonic. Now, granted, all it would take for them to learn about Sonic is to play through the games, maybe watch videos and watch shows and stuff to get to know the characters better. But instead, they made him out to be some cheesy jokester. But now, we got something else on the horizon. a new frontier to carve. And, yeah. I'm happy. I am absolutely excited for this new direction the series is going. Because judging by everything that I've heard about Frontiers, from the people who have gotten to play it to the people who have it in their hands, whether they be reviewers or whatnot, it's pretty much unanimously agreed at this point that this game is not going to be a repeat of the other meta era Sonic games. This is a brand new era. It's going to be a brand new adventure of sorts. In fact, one could say that this could be the foundation for a potential continuation of the adventure games. And heck, Takashi Iizuka even said so. He even said that he wants to continue the Sonic Adventure games, and that should this game do well, yeah. But the thing is, Sonic Forces is the farewell game to the previous era of Sonic that we, had to deal with from 2010 to 2017. Otherwise known as the Pontaff era. Now, you're probably wondering, wait, but didn't Sonic Unleashed have boosting? Yeah, but that was written by actually good writers. Like, it wasn't written by people who know nothing about Sonic. In fact, Sonic Unleashed was written by Sayako Yoshimura. And, the story in that game was great. It had its fair share of lighthearted and goofy moments, but they never overstayed their welcome from what I've seen. And, yeah. Anyway, so with that said, that's why I'm not including this game in the meta era of games for the Sonic games. It's because of the fact that this was the last good Sonic game before the series started to have its big downfall. Well, that and another game which we'll get to tomorrow. Anyway, getting to the subjects at hand, how about we get to the first game on the list. Again, I should state I'm not going to be playing through this, I'm just going to be playing a little bit of it. And you'll note that it says Sonic Adventure DX. But, what if I were to tell you that, according to my previous streams I've done regarding this game, you're about to see a flashback of sorts. So, I had the desktop audio turned off so you guys could still hear me over the game audio. So, I think that was Eggman. I just heard Eggman. Yep. This right here is from the Dreamcast conversion mod. But we're not here to talk about mods and playing through a game. We're here to talk about this game itself. Sonic Adventure. Let me tell ya. This game was developed in quite literally 10 months. I'm not even joking. That's literally how long the development process was. To give a little bit of context as to why I say that, You need not look further than the Sega Saturn game Sonic Jam. That game was literally the framework for what would end up being Sonic Adventure. It's important to note that because of the fact that it has various aspects that share similarities with what we would end up getting in 1998/1999, depending on where you lived. For example, you had the 3D environment that you would explore. However, this wasn't Sonic's mainline introduction to 3D. That wouldn't be until this game. And yes, I know about the common joke about Sonic having a rough transition into 3D, but listen, Mario also had to make a transition into 3D, right? And obviously, that wasn't as faithful as well. Also, fun fact, I actually had this game on Dreamcast. Yes, I have a Dreamcast. Anyway, so, wait, why am I pausing? I guess because of the fact that I'm not used to having the desktop audio turned off. But basically, this game and the other adventure game are why I called this, or why this stream is going to be focused on the adventure games, is that it was focused more on those two games. Because this is what propelled Sonic into 3D, like in terms of the mainline games, and it was also the framework for what we would end up getting over all these years. Adventure 2 expanded on that with better storytelling, better voice acting, and all that other stuff. Because admittedly, while this game was great, you can't deny that the voice acting in this game was, not great. Oops. Wait. Is the casino open now? Oh. Trying to talk to these people. Don't expect too much. If you've got high expectations, you'll be that much more disappointed. It's not that I thought you were so great. I was just so lonely, I couldn't stand being alone. That's the thing about this game, is this was back whenever Sonic Team weren't afraid to tell stories. Like, something you'll notice playing through this game if you're very attentive is that these NPCs aren't just there to be there. They would have their own stories to tell. A good example of this would be, wait. Hold on. Isn't there like a red sparkly thing? Cause I forgot where to go.
Go to the Mystic Ruins.
Oh.
You might find something.
Oh, actually, you know what?
Select your. Let's get him. Select a stage.
It was hard to get that last emblem on this level. Anyway, so, you're probably wondering, so what did this game end up doing for the Sonic franchise? Well, for one, it's the very game that brought Sonic into the third dimension. And no, I'm not going to talk about Sonic R or any of the other spin-offs. I'm talking specifically about the mainline series, like the overall storyline of Sonic in terms of the lore. It brought Sonic into a bright new generation of games that would end up shaping the series into what it is today. Without this game, and without the console that, although it was short-lived, was still a golden standard at the time, we wouldn't have the modern Sonic that we have today. You'll notice this Sonic is different from the classic Sonic because he has the green eyes, you have the different looking shoes, all that other stuff. Those are all from a massive redesign that Sonic was given to match him growing up with the series along with the world. It showed that Sega wasn't afraid to try new things, and it actually paid off, albeit for a while. I mean, the Sega Dreamcast, which is when this game first came out, it sold well at first, but because of the fact that the Sega Saturn already had a sour reputation, alongside the fact that not many people bought it, the Sega Dreamcast was Sega's last-ditch effort into making a console that would end up selling well. And although it did technically do well, at least by my standards, I wouldn't exactly say I wouldn't exactly say that 9 million or so units sold nowadays would be considered successful. Back in the day, however, that was a pretty good amount, although it wasn't nearly as much as its other contemporaries that were on the market much later, like the PS2, GameCube, and the Xbox. However, this game was also influential in the fact that it brought in a whole new generation of music. Listen to... I want you to do something real quick. So you can't hear the music, I don't think. At least from what I'm hearing. I want you to go on YouTube or whatever platform you choose and search up Sonic Adventure music, and you'll see why this game is so well regarded in terms of the music.
Select your character.
So that was Sonic Adventure 1, the very game that launched Sonic into the third dimension. Anyway, yeah, so Sonic Adventure games are considered to have been a sort of revamp of the Sonic the Hedgehog series due to the new character designs introduced. One of the examples would actually end up being Amy, who in Sonic CD previously had her hair look sort of like Sonic, only with the 3 hairs right here. However, her new design, which you can see right here, has her hair more like how a female would, you know, with her hair down but still having the spiked hair. Yeah. So, this game was the one that popularized Amy, because Amy in Sonic CD was nothing more than a side character. However, in Sonic Adventure, you actually got to play as her. However, it was a little, yeah. I mean, you also got to play as her in Drift, I'm pretty sure. and R, but I'm talking specifically about her first mainline appearance as a playable character. As a playable character in Sonic Adventure, what you would have to do was you had to run away from a robot named Zero and, not get captured. Um, anyway, another thing is because of Amy, she's not the same kind of character as Sonic. Like, she's a hedgehog, but she doesn't have the ability to run fast. But she makes up for this with her Pico Pico hammer, which you're probably wondering, wait a minute. Hold on. How did it get that name? Well, that's the funny thing. It's named that because of the sound effect it makes. So, yeah, so I'm trying to find it. I think it's just the sound it makes. Oh. Anyway, so yeah. I was trying to find why it's called the Pico Pico hammer. Oh, yeah. Here it is. Concept and creation. The Pico Pico hammer was originally based on a popular Japanese children's toy of the same name. The phrase Pico Pico is an onomatopoeia for the chirping sound these hammers make when struck, which can also be heard in several games when Amy attacks. Oh, she also appears in Sonic the Fighters whenever you're playing as her, which that's actually a character model. She looks cute. But this is actually the design I was talking about when I was talking about her older design prior to the big revamp in designs. Which, honestly, I love her new design better, like how she currently looks. Because, like, it just fits her better. Because this one just looks more like a little girl, which makes sense, because, that's a younger Amy. Just like classic Sonic is, a younger Sonic, not a classic Sonic. So, yeah. Anyway, pardon the voice crack. Yeah, so, you're probably wondering, well, what about Sonic Adventure 2? What did that game do? Well, you'd probably be able to tell just by the icon that it introduced a character that would be a fan favorite and would have his own game where he got to say damn 27,000 times and also became an edgelord in the more recent games, which hopefully in any upcoming Sonic games that might have him, hopefully they bring him back to his former glory like what they're doing with Frontiers with the other characters. I digress. Anyway. Oh. Yes, that's my graphics card. Shut up. This is part of the reason why I'm getting that new PC. Which I actually just got my allowance today, so that's good. Wait. Oh, okay. Yeah. So, this game is very similar to Adventure 1 in that it would have similar gameplay styles. While SA1 had 6 different playable characters, each with their own various types of gameplay, this game narrows it down to 3 different styles of gameplay from 2 different stories. We have the hero story and the dark story. However, to any seasoned veteran of the Sonic series, you'd be able to tell right away that, you know,
Select your story. Select the
there's actually a 3rd story, but it's more like the end game, like the ending of the game. And I think you'll be able to tell what this game is also famous for because of this level. Say hello to my all-time favorite level in any Sonic game, at least in 3D. Running at 144 hertz. Whoops. I still got 28 lives, so it's okay. Yeah, you can't go back for those. Also, my reaction time is shit. There we go! Yeah, don't worry, I can still get lives. Don't worry. Those actually give you points. I missed that, but whatever. I don't care. You get 20 points for that. But believe it or not, this game has a bit of significance for me. You're probably wondering, wait, how? So let me tell you my own personal story about Sonic the Hedgehog, and how I had come to know about the series initially, and the very game that brought me to being a Sonic fan. The very first Sonic game I had ever played was the Sonic Mega Collection for the Nintendo GameCube. That introduced me to the old Sonic games that at the time were just a few years old. However, this game right here, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, this is in fact the fully equipped battle version of the game. However, here's the thing. How I found out about Sonic Adventure 2 Battle was that I, out of curiosity, decided to check out the extras menu in Sonic Mega Collection, and they had trailers for the games. They had the history of the games, and at the end of that, it showed gameplay of SA2B. And they even had a trailer itself for the game, like some of the gameplay and stuff. And I knew at that moment I had to get it. So I asked my papa one day if, for graduating to the next grade, because I was a little kid at that point. I believe I was going into 3rd grade. I don't remember, but I asked him if I could get that game as a graduation gift. I know it's not actually graduating, it's just graduating to the next grade. So that's what I meant, and he, of course, understood what I meant. To my surprise, whenever I was about to enter summer vacation, he called me downstairs one night and he said that he had a surprise for me, and he had his hands behind his back. And so naturally I was like, wait, what is it? And he pulled his hands out from behind his back, and I will never forget how excited I was when I saw that copy of Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. Now, this was at a time where I didn't even know about the other Sega game, or the Sega consoles. I only knew about the Sega Genesis, and I barely knew anything about the other Sonic games. Or, the other Sega consoles. I didn't even know what a Dreamcast was. But it was this very game right here that I'm playing. Albeit the GameCube version, not the PC version, because I had a PC at the time, but it was, well, at the time it was modern, but it wasn't a gaming computer, and I didn't have internet on there. In fact, I don't even think we had an internet at all until I was much older. But even then, like, the computer I was using was an old XP system, so, yeah. Anyway, this very game is the game that made me a fan of Sonic. And I owe it to this game, because if it wasn't for this game right here, I wouldn't be a big Sonic fan. It's because of Sonic Adventure 2, or the battle version, that I fell in love with this lovely blue little hedgehog. And while the games as of late haven't been too great, I have a good feeling that Frontiers is going to change all that. Because it's going to be a return to form. Oops. I cannot do those stunt ramps for the life of me. I mean, then again, I haven't really played this game in a long time, so... At least I can still do the spin dash jump. But this game is also important to the Sonic series as a whole because it introduced grinding, it introduced Shadow the Hedgehog, whoops. Wait. I don't even think I have Shadow, because I haven't played the Dark Story on this version of the game yet.
Here we go.
Also, who could forget this? Well, I've never been able to do that! Usually I miss that one, because you're running away from a truck, you don't really have the timing to do that. There's Big over there. Okay, I wasn't able to do that. Yeah! Again, I know you can't really hear the game because I have the desktop audio turned off for the sake of talking. But, wait. How did I do?
Just made it.
That was worse than the other score I got. You know, the B score.
Select the stage.
The good thing is, though, it keeps your old score. Because I think it's just like on your first initial playthrough of the level that it keeps that score. So it doesn't change the score if you did better or worse. So don't worry. But this game also, just like Sonic Adventure 1, had the Chao World. Unfortunately, this was the last time a 3D Sonic game would have the Chao World. Now, there was also the Chao World in the advanced games, and I think Sonic Battle as well. But, yeah.
Who do you want to be?
Yeah, so basically this game did a lot of good things for the franchise. For one, like I said, it introduced Shadow the Hedgehog. It introduced Rouge the Bat, otherwise known as the people on the internet sure are horny for bats. Yeah, let's see. It made Eggman playable, which is awesome. Because in Sonic Adventure 1, you couldn't play as Eggman. You could play as Gamma, but not as Eggman himself. Now, that isn't to say that he wasn't playable in any of the other Sonic games at the time, because there was still, like, the spin-offs, like Sonic R and all that other stuff. But I'm talking about mainline series games, you know, like, that advances the overall story of Sonic the Hedgehog. Anyway, with that being said, that'll bring an end to the stream. Join me tomorrow where we talk about the inevitable. For you see, Sonic Adventure 2, the game I was just playing, was meant to be a celebration of the game's series' 10th anniversary. Now, you're probably wondering, okay, well, what did they do for the 15th anniversary then? Surely it can't be that bad. Is that enough to tell you? Because, trust me when I say this. This game is widely regarded to be one of the worst games of all time. And not just that, it was also the very game that would change Sonic forever in a way that many people did not want. You're probably wondering, wait, why do you say that? Well, for one, remember how I said that the game itself was a anniversary game? Well, Yep. I can't even find it, but yeah. The game wasn't good. At all. Ever. In fact, the thing is, if this game wasn't rushed to meet the holiday deadline, which, by the way, a 2-year development cycle? Are you nuts? How is this meant to be a rebirth of the series? Yeah. Let's just say that when you try to take what the adventure titles have and try to bring it into a realistic setting, oh boy. 06. We have to have a lot of talking tomorrow night. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, so, this game was a, blemish. And, because of this very game, the series had a steady downfall. Now, granted, the game that came after this, Sonic Unleashed, was a far greater game. But that didn't save it. Because after Unleashed, the series went to a further downfall. And that's not to say Unleashed was the greatest game ever, because it has some good things, but it was marred by the slow and clunky werehog combat, and the performance of the game, at least on the hardware it came out on. And let's not forget, this was just prior to the big meta era nonsense. Oh yeah, and by the way, did you know that this game supports bestiality apparently? Because I sure don't. Yeah, But, if it's one good thing I have to say about this game, guess what? Quite literally, wait, hold on. Yeah, so, this event right here, the timeline reboot, because of that, this game technically doesn't exist in terms of the Sonic lore. At all. Come on. It's not loading. But that's okay. Anyway, with that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you did, then like, comment, and subscribe. You don't have to do any of that, but it's certainly appreciated. And let your friends know about this channel, so that way they could check it out and let their friends know. Anyway, join me tomorrow night where we talk about, well, what we kind of just talked about. And I probably could have fitted into the stream, but, you know. Yeah. You know what? I just thought of something. What I'm gonna do for tomorrow's stream is I'm gonna start talking about the games that would end up being the downfall of the series. I'm not going to include writers because I'm only talking about the mainline games. And the last I checked, yeah, so, yeah. I'm not gonna count Heroes, though, because, you know, it's just, yeah. But anyway, so tomorrow we're gonna be talking about, actually, you know what? No. I'm gonna be talking about this. We're gonna start the next episode with that. And, you're probably wondering why. Well, let's just say that it was sort of the start of the downfall of the series, although it was still a good game in its own merits. The music was good, the controls were half decent, but yeah. Also, fun fact, this game is going to be 20 next year. Hooray. Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, yeah, Heroes is a mainline game. Because in the manual, they do talk about the events of SA2. And, yeah. But, yeah. Anyway, that being said, yeah, so tomorrow I'm gonna start talking about the downfall of the series. Then Sunday I'm gonna talk about the meta era. Not that meta, I'm not talking about the freaking headsets, even though I have mine charging. You know, VR headset. Anyway, yeah, so we'll be talking about the later 2000s prior to the 2010s and talk about those games. Then Sunday, we're going to talk about the meta era, which, by the way, I think a YouTuber came up with that name for that. And then, well, I think Monday will be the calm before the storm. Because as you know, Tuesday is whenever I start the Let's Play of Sonic Frontiers, which I've already talked about how I'm going to be approaching it, how I'll have one save file reserved for personal playing and, you know, learning the ropes of what I plan on doing, like my own gameplay techniques and stuff. But the second save file will be reserved for the Let's Play. So that's how I'm going to be approaching it, but I might change things up, but I think it's going to stay that way. With that